Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Election day has finally arrived, and voters will determine who controls Congress for the next 2 years. The primary issue for most Americans is the economy.
That has Republicans predicting a red wave as Democrats defend their slim majorities in Congress. Charlene Aaron reports on the big key to this election voter turnout.
Americans are headed to the polls today in one of the most consequential midterm elections in recent history, with both the House and Senate potentially flipping from Democrat to Republican control. Voters starting early this morning, lining up to cast their ballots. Candidates made their final push ahead of today's pivotal election. Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock in a neck-and-neck race against Republican Herschel Walker.
This is the difference between right and wrong. You cannot trust Herschel Walker to tell the truth.
And I'm running because I'm sick and tired of people not loving this country.
Across the country, many voted early, with more than 40 million votes already cast.
I think we're going to have record turnout because you have two excited bases who are coming out to vote for different reasons.
Top of mind for voters, the economy, inflation, and crime. On CBN's Faith Nation, Nathan Gonzalez, editor and publisher of Inside Elections, said it's all about the economy.
Whether it's inflation, gas prices, cost of living, it's generally wrapped up into the economy. There are issues of crime, immigration, the border, abortion access, but those are secondary or tertiary to the economy.
Senate races in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, Ohio, and Arizona could determine control of the chamber. All are in a dead heat coming into Election Day. Candidates for governor are also on the ballot in 36 states. In this vital election, officials are also concerned about election security and are taking steps to protect poll workers and election places. This election worker in Colorado wears a bulletproof vest to work for protection.
And I have had some incidences in the past where people followed me back to my neighborhood. That prompted me to start talking with the sheriff about personal safety. He recommended that I wear a ballistic vest.
There's also the issue of foreign interference. Russian businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin, an ally of Vladimir Putin, said Monday that he has interfered in past U.S. elections and will continue to interfere, quote, carefully, accurately, and surgically. With the high number of mail-in ballots, some are predicting the counts could go long into the night and even for days.
I think we're going to have to practice patience. Not only could the fight for the Senate go down to a runoff on December 6th in Georgia, but we might not know whether that Georgia race is going to decide the Senate because it could take a few days to count all the ballots in other key close races such as Pennsylvania or Arizona or Nevada.
Meanwhile, former President Trump says he will make a big announcement on November 15th, in which he's expected to launch his 2024 presidential campaign. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, just when you thought it would be over, guess what? It's not over. And I just have to say, can the states please get your act together so you can count the votes quickly? One of the problems with our elections is the delay. So you think someone is winning, then you go to bed and you wake up the next morning, and it turns out they didn't win. And so that just spawns out these conspiracy theories. Can we please mimic what Florida did? Here they had 22 years ago the famous hanging chads, and the fate of the nation depended on a hanging chad down in Florida. Well, they got their act together and they made sure that they could report quickly and completely and honestly so that everyone had the respect that the election process worked in Florida. On the last presidential race, they counted very quickly, reported there weren't any questions about it. We need that in every single state. And Georgia can't go along and say, all right, well, it's so close, we can't declare, and we have to, wait all this time. Let's have a count. A lot of the problem, though, is not just the mechanisms of the election, it's also the mail-in ballots. And under the statute, what is the postmark for that? And can the Postal Service get that mail-in in? So it's a complicated issue, but I think we need to solve it so we can stop the conspiracy theories. So regardless of who's going to win, you can watch live election coverage on our CBN News team tonight on the CBN News Channel from 8 to midnight Eastern Time. Be sure to download the CBN News app, or you can go to the CBN Family app to watch. Well, because the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, abortion is on the ballot in several states. Ephraim Cram has that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, voters in 5 states will have the chance to weigh in on the issue. Some states are seeking to restrict abortion while others are trying to protect it. In Michigan, a proposed amendment would create a right to, quote, reproductive freedom, allowing women the option to choose an abortion. On the California ballot, an amendment makes abortion a fundamental right. Vermont has a similar measure. In Montana, voters will decide whether infants who survive an abortion will be given status as legal persons. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, where abortion is already banned, a measure would ensure the state constitution does not protect a right to abortion. Tim Head, executive director of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, told CBN's Faith Nation while abortion advocates mobilized more quickly after the Dobbs decision, pro-life voters are now fully engaged.
Immediately what we saw following the Dobbs decision being handed down in late June was the political left was very animated and mobilized and throughout the summer and early fall. But we've seen a significant uptick in those pro-life voters becoming very animated and mobilized in late September and October. So I'd say at this time, they're very similar kind of equivalent impacts across the country.
In August, voters in Kansas defeated a proposed pro-life amendment to the state constitution. Just 5 weeks after Hurricane Ian devastated southwest Florida, the state is bracing for another major storm. Subtropical storm Nicole is gaining strength and heading for the East Coast. It could be a Category 1 hurricane by the time it makes landfall, possibly as early as Wednesday. Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency in 34 counties. Forecasters predict the storm will hit Florida and then turn north, dumping heavy rain in the southeast and along the Atlantic coast for several days. People in the Philippines are picking up the pieces after a deadly storm hit the nation recently. Landslides and floods killed more than 150 people, and thousands more are in need of food, water, and shelter. As Lucille Toulousan shows us, CBN's Operation Blessing is helping to meet that need.
This unexpected situation happened at the height of Tropical Storm Nalgae as it made landfall in the Philippines. While trying to flee the storm, Melissa Calisnao suddenly went into labor. Melissa and her husband were so thankful that a midwife was there to help.
I rushed my wife and 3-year-old son to the community hall, but we did not expect that she will give birth because she is only on her 8th month.
I was shocked to see my son's clothes already wet, because the flood water already reached our bed. I quickly jumped out of bed with my son and rushed to the nearby hall. Then I felt the labor pains.
Flooding from Typhoon Nalgae affected thousands around Metro Manila and nearby provinces, including Miracle Mendez and her family.
The strong current swept away the wall of the first floor. When we felt our house trembling and the water already reached our chest, we rushed to the second floor, went out the window, and crossed to the roof of our neighbor. We stayed there, my 3 kids and my parents, from midnight until 6 in the morning when the flood water started to recede.
After bearing the brunt of Typhoon Nalgae, the people here are facing another challenge, and that is cleaning their homes of the mud and washing the clothes that have been swept away by floods. But people here are thankful that they survived and that they are all alive.
We left everything because I was afraid that we might drown. All I thought about was for my kids and elderly parents to be safe. We did not have food. There was nowhere to buy food because the water was still waist deep. And that is why when my neighbor told me to list my name for Operation Blessing, we were given food last night.
Mendez told CBN News that it was their first meal. Thanks to Operation Blessing's One Step Ahead program, many families were able to receive much-needed food bags right after the storm.
Thank you very much, Operation Blessing. We immediately cooked the rice, noodles, and the canned goods that you gave us.
Aside from physical food, Mendez and her family also received the best miracle as they prayed to receive Jesus in their lives. Operation Blessing also visited Melissa and baby Paeng, who was named after the local name of Typhoon Nalgae.
Thank you so much, Operation Blessing, for all of this, especially for the things for our baby.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Cavite, Philippines.
When others have left, Operation Blessing remains to meet the need. Gordon?
If you want to help our disaster relief efforts, there's a real easy way to do it. You can give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. And whether it's Ukrainian refugees, people in Florida from Hurricane Ian, as they prep for yet another hurricane hitting there, or the horrible devastation that's happened in the Philippines because of a super typhoon, a Category 5 storm. We want to be there for people in need, and we're there in your name. So if you'd like to give to it, write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of a check. You can also give by texting OBDR to 71777. A giving page will come up on your phone, and your gift will be designated to disaster relief. You can also call us, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to give to the Disaster Relief Fund.